We are living at a time when the search for role models never end. We are living at a time when worthy role models are becoming scarcer by the day. And everyone needs role models to imitate and follow. This is especially true for our children and young people as they engage in this business called life. Young people and children listen more with their ears and eyes than by what we simply tell them or ask them to read in the good books that we may have. Christian parents want their children to emulate strong biblical characters instead of the soapy heroes that may flood the media and the market today. Son, you might say, it is important for you to be a man of prayer like Daniel. Son or daughter, you might say, it is important for you to endure trials and do your best in whatever circumstance life lands you in, like Joseph. You might be able to say, son, just like Job, you need to be patient when things are not going your way and you are going through serious trials and tribulations in your life. When you lose everything, you need to be like Job, who said, even though he slay me, yet will I serve him. Son, you need to be like Daniel's 3 friends who chose to stand up for God and walk into the fiery furnace instead of bowing down to the idols that were there on that day. Son, you need to be like these biblical heroes. You need to be like Rahab, who hung that thread across her window so that the spies could go away freely. Son, you need to be like the Apostle Paul, who fearlessly preached the gospel of God. You need to be able to say, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have I give unto thee. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up and walk. When we want our children to have worthy role models to follow, we usually would refer them to some character in the Bible, and likely so. Even though these characters have their character flaws with them, nevertheless, God has used them in a marvelous way to be examples for us. If you are a parent today, just like me, we would find worthy role models to liken our children with, to put them in front of our children so our children can emulate. However, in the Old Testament, we are introduced to a very little known character in the Bible, Agar. This man brought his children together. He wrote some of the Proverbs in the Old Testament. He got his sons together, sat them down, and while he sat there trying to explain to them how to handle this chaos, this wonderful experience called life, how to mix and match, how to roll with the flow, how to accept the good with the bad. As he was teaching his children how to enjoy and experience life, one would have imagined that he would have quoted some Old Testament character as an example. However, Agar does not refer to the prophets of old, nor does he refer to anyone in his family or even he himself. Hagar, according to the Old Testament and the book of Proverbs, chapter 30, we discover that Agar, instead of creating a role model from human beings for his children, he tells his children, children, I want you to imitate 4 kinds of creatures. Among the 4, the first one that you need to imitate is the ant. When I think about all the examples he could have used, I marvel that this father would talk to his son and ask him to emulate something as small and seemingly insignificant as an ant. This might sound strange, to say the least. Which kind of parent will sit his son down and say, son, you need to be like a lizard. You need to imitate a locust. It sounds strange because when we look at these creatures, some of them to us, our first reaction is to be repulsed by them. Our first reaction is to run away from them. But Agar, he tells his children, son, consider the ant. In fact, if pressed a little more, some of us would be ashamed to admit that even if it is out of our way, when we see these creatures, because we anticipate they might come into our rooms, creep underneath our doors, get underneath our blankets, we make sure we stomp them while they are outside and crush them so that they don't enter our homes. Some people have the fear of sleeping at night and some tiny creature creeping into their ear. So before they sleep, they would make sure their house is cleared of all termites and crawling insects. This might sound strange for you and I, but Agar, under inspiration, counsels his children in the book of Proverbs chapter 30, verse 25. He says, ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in the summer. The ant works today for tomorrow. Or to put it another way, he says, the ant knows and understands the time. A lot of people don't understand the time. They don't understand the time and they choose to live in the past. Have you heard people saying, oh, it was so good in the good old days. When I was young, life was not so busy as it is today. In the good old days, while we did not have vehicles, while we did not have aeroplanes, we were able to go wherever we needed to go. In the good old days, while we had no cell phones, yet we were more connected to each other. In the good old days, you would cook your food in your kitchen. And when you realize you don't have salt to season your food, you could easily walk to your neighbor and get some salt for yourself. In the good old days, you could make tea in your house and use the sugar from your neighbor's house. In the good old days, you could walk into a town and you could knock onto a door and tell the person who opens the door, you are passing through. They would invite you into their home, give you a meal, allow you to refresh yourself, and then be on your way. Nowadays, we have high walls and razor fences, electronic gates and cameras to monitor all the traffic that comes in and out of our homes. There are people who love to live in the good old days. And as they reminisce about how life used to be in the good old days, of course, some of them also remember the sins of their good old days. They remember the wrongs that they have done, and they still can't get over them. It still chains them to the past. These people, I like to say, live and move through life looking through the rear view mirror. Other people live in the present. They only live for today. They have no thought for tomorrow. They don't care about the consequences of their actions. They don't bother about where they will be tomorrow. All they live for is today. They believe, let us eat, drink, and be merry today, for tomorrow we die. So regardless of whether we die tomorrow or next year, let us live in the moment, maximize the moment, and make the most of life. They don't save for a rainy day. They don't have a nest egg. They don't give a thought about their future. Then there are those who constantly live in the future. They are not able to do today what they can postpone for tomorrow. They procrastinate all their lives. There are some people who say, I will do that after I do this. I will attempt this in my life when I retire, after I get promoted, after I get married, after I get my degree. There are some people who postpone many things for the future. Agar, when it spoke to his children, he referred them to the ant to learn the lesson of life. When we get back, we'll discover the contrast between these people and the ants.